Hello everyone, how's everybody doing? Hope you're doing fine and that you did not catch the virus, okay? Today we're going to have a dark day, so I'm properly dressed, I think, in black, okay? I was going to talk today about waves, electromagnetic waves, and instead this deal about the virus, it takes precedence, okay? So today's going to be a virus day, a viral day, hopefully. Anyways, first I want to remind everyone we have a conference in Lusaka, Africa, Lusaka, Zambia. And maybe that's a good place to go because as far as I know, Zambia has not recorded any cases. Now, someone might say, well, that's because they're a backward country. Maybe they have 1 million cases and they don't know about it. Yeah, it could happen. But right now, it's a good bet that if you want to escape the virus, go to Lusaka, okay? So that's a good place to go. If the authorities let you, because right now we're having a lot of problems at the airports, as we will see today, okay? They're implementing draconian measures. Governments and airports and airlines, everybody's out of their minds, right? And also want to remind people that we've uploaded the book, The Rope Hypothesis. You can locate it at ropehypothesis.com. And just go to books, and there you can download the book for free, and it'll put you up to date on the rope model of light, okay, in gravity. For those of you who have a second language, you can contact us at tokakaka@hotmail.com, and you may want to translate it to your native language, okay? We would send you a file that you can modify, and then we post it, put you on the honor roll, okay? Anyways, why don't we start with a virus, okay? This is the map as of Wednesday, okay, of where the coronavirus hit the world. You can see that China's on the number one on the list. They lost a lot of people there. It's the country that's got the most cases. Then you have other countries such as Japan, Iran, countries in Central Europe and the United States, which are catching up, let's say, okay? That was on Wednesday, okay? What happened today, March 15? Well, I don't know if it's spread a little more or if it's simply the fact that we don't have enough information, okay? So we don't really know what's going on. All we know, there are cases out there. We don't know how dangerous it is because at least more than half of the people who caught the virus surpassed it. In other words, apparently more people survive the virus than die of it. It's old people like me who die, okay, which may not be so bad, I mean, for those of you who heard Logan's Run, there was a movie on this case where they had this ideal society or futuristic society where the young people had to die at the age of 30, because at the age of 30 you were considered to be an old man. And so this allowed the new generation to move up into those positions, into those new jobs, etc. And they kept their population overall always young. And the problem today are the old people. Me. See, if you could get us out of the way, all the old workers, then the young workers could take their positions and we would have you would think, a progressive society. But it's the old folks that are causing this bottleneck for the new generation, okay? And also because of that, the new generation doesn't have money. They don't have much of a future, a lot of them. And so they don't produce kids, they don't get married, they don't produce kids, and so the population becomes older and older and older in general, okay? And so we call that the overturning of the population pyramid, or the overturning of the demographic pyramid, okay? Okay, here's a rundown what happened because of that. That was the health part, the virus taking over the world, right? One person here, another there. the panic it caused far surpasses the death capabilities of the virus itself. Here you see Yahoo Finance. This is what they had on Friday, okay? And it shows that, stock markets go crazy. They looked at the economic consequences. Airlines suspend flights to China. Streets are deserted. Theaters, restaurants, that's all gone. Nobody goes to travel anymore. Stock market falls, okay? And especially the big five, or some of the big players, okay? They're all going down. And so you say, here you have this little bug, and look at all the disaster it's caused. Is it because the bug is so lethal it's killing millions? No. So far, we can say that a drop of water in the ocean has occurred. This bug killed, 4,000, 5,000 people in the world. 100 and some thousand people caught it. And we are 8 billion people on the planet. So 8 billion people now are held hostage because of a few cases. The question is whether the remedy is worse than the bug, than the disease. And that makes you stop and think, are we overreacting, or is this overreaction the correct way to contain the bug so it doesn't spread further? Or should we allow it to kill people, and whoever survives, survives, and we don't mess around with the economy at least, because maybe the economy kills us before the bug does. Okay, that's the issue. Here's a shot of the airport in the United States. That's essentially what all airports look like, not only in the United States, and here in Europe and other places as well. Okay, so Europe scrambles. Okay, there's a big problem there because the U.S. president says no one can come into his country anymore. And people can leave, but when they come, they're going to be in a lot of trouble because they're going to be put, they're going to be quarantined, going to be put in the airport somewhere for a few days to make sure the guy's clean, and then he can be let go. He can be released to the general population. You'll be in prison for a few days probably, and that's going to be, or it's being implemented in several countries. Okay, so you got to be careful about that, because when you travel, you're going to be held hostage. Not so much in the receiving country, which may not care. Like if you go to Zambia, they might not care there. But when you come back, you might be in a lot of trouble. And by trouble, I mean that, they're going to ask you questions. They're going to put you aside. They're going to make life a little bit miserable for you. That's what I mean, right? So what happened on Friday? Well, I decided to film the stock market ticker. Okay, here it is. Looks for a few seconds. Okay. And this is at 4 times the speed. It started about 950 and it went all the way to 1,000. Okay, and you're saying, why does the Dow go up so fast? Okay, who would be betting on the market when we have such a disaster, happening all around us? Nobody's even leaving their houses in Italy and Spain right now. They got the police checking the streets. And this is how the stock market ended up. You can see the roller coaster in green up there, went up and down that day, and it ended up at 3.63 above starting point. So that wasn't such a bad day for the market. It was a little bit of a recovery, a little bit of relief from what had happened the first week or the earlier week, because the stock market had gone down, not recovered. And you're saying, who would be betting on the market at this dire times, in these dire times? Why would anyone be betting on the market? And more, I'll give you a little more evidence here. You want evidence? I'll give you a little bit of evidence. Here you have Boeing. Boeing stock went up 7%, one of the high rollers that day. They made a little bit of money, You say Boeing, I thought Boeing sold airplanes. Doesn't Boeing make airplanes for the airline industry? The airline industry is paralyzed. nobody's traveling. Hotels are shut down. Restaurants are shut down. The whole travel industry is suffering. And these guys are investing in airplanes. Now, something doesn't seem right, you know. And yeah, if you look at it, it's people betting against the future or in favor of the future. They're betting on the future, okay? They're saying, okay, now the stock goes down, but eventually that's a dip. Then it's going to recover, and I'm going to make a killing. That's the logic behind that, because otherwise, who would be, you know, buying Boeing stock? You should be selling it, right? No, they say you got to play the opposite side of the market. You let other people sell, you buy cheap, and then sell big when, you know, when the stock market recovers. And so all these people who are doing this, the people who are putting the money in stocks, they're thinking things are going to get better, okay, eventually. Because, you know, we've seen it through history. There's always been dips, there's been depressions, recessions, and then the market recovers, and if you were wise and bought when it was low, well, now you made a killing. So it's okay. The logic is okay. Okay, that's what I'm trying to say here, right? There's nothing wrong with the logic. The question is whether history is any indication of what's going on today. Okay, will the markets recover? Okay, and here let me show you projections. These are projections that I found the other day. This is what they project. They project that the world is going to still grow despite the bug, 2.4%. This is the entire planet in 2020. It's a little down from what their original predictions were. I don't remember what the original prediction was, but they're saying it's still going to grow 2.4%. You see, the United States, it was supposed to grow at 2.3, was only going to grow at 1.9. The EU, European Union, it's going to grow. It was supposed to grow at 1.2. It's only going to grow at 0.8. India, a little more than what it was originally planned for, and China, a little less. So people are projecting that the world is still going to go up as far as the values, what we're going to produce, the economic growth of the planet. Here you have a disease that's essentially put everybody inside their houses and said you're imprisoned inside your houses, right? And the projections are that we're still going to grow. There seems to be a little bit of a contradiction, or some people are very hopeful. I don't know. Everybody's got their own version of what may happen in the future. Some people are not worried at all. Some people are ultra worried. They go out and buy toilet paper. I guess put under walls all over the place. Okay, here we have one guy like this one. You know, he's got his RV. He says for the end of the world, 18 tons. So if you want an armored truck to run around the country, you know, free of bugs and so on, well, there it is. You can buy that. So the RV for the end of the world. You got your camper. You travel around. You're a free person. You know. And one of the things that brings up is the fact that many people in the last maybe 50, 60 years, after World War II, I would say for sure, started talking more and more about the end of the world. You've got end of the world songs, which I just went in there and got a few songs that just popped in my mind in the search. And you'll see all these songs, they have to do with end of the world scenarios. You know, and why is that? Do we have like a sixth sense where we think something's happening? We feel it in our bones that something is not quite right. Is that what it is? Or is it just a fad that people say, well, it's a nice subject to talk about, the end of the world, you know? You've had all these movies like Waterworld and so on, and the question is this that we're sensing that something is not right, or is it just a fad? It's a nice subject to talk about. What's the issue here? I mean, you had people talk about like the end of the world when the first 1,000 years of the Christian era were approaching. They said, oh, the 1,000 years, the millennium, we're going to have Jesus Christ come back to earth. And then we had the year 2000, the second millennium. A lot of people committed suicide and so on. Okay. Um, it's whatever you believe, but the question is, is this something new? The fact that we have so much talk lately, or movies, or art. Here I collected. Just go to the Wikipedia and you'll find this. This is what you'll find. These are end of the world entertainment, we can call it. Okay, you've got everything. You got art. You got books. You got films, television, songs. The whole thing. The whole works. You'll find all kinds of end of the world scenarios and people talking about it, people writing songs about it. Is this our sixth sense? Do we feel that something is not right? Is that why why would we talk about it? And I want to give you a comparison with the 19th century. 19th century was an era of growth. Manufacturing was exploding. New inventions were coming into, on the line. End of the 19th century, beginning of the 20th century, you had the telephone. It put a lot of people to work. You had the car industry. You had the airplane. You had all these inventions, and people went out there and they got jobs. There was no problem really with work in general. In general, there was a lot of demand for workers. And so people were hopeful. And I don't think too many people talked about the end of the world or wrote songs about it or anything like that. You look at the lyrics of the 19th century, especially in the United States, and I don't think you'll find a single one talking about the end of the world. And here I just showed a little, piece of it. What you find out there, you'll find a lot more songs talking about the end of the world, scenarios and so on, and talking about that prospect. Okay. So I don't know, is something going on here? And so we have two possibilities. Either this virus is triggering the end of the world, or it's not. I mean, how's that for black and white? Okay. You either believe that this virus is going to take us to the end of the world, it's the beginning of the end, or you think this is just a normal dip and we're going to recover, markets are going to recover, jobs are going to recover, and we're going to all go back to normal when they find an antidote or whatever, vaccine for the virus. And for 20 years now, I've been talking about the extinction of man. And I already said many times now that what's going to cause the extinction of man is the collapse of the global economy. And right now you have a nice, an interesting situation where this bug could cause the extinction of man, not because of the bug, not because we're all going to get infected. It's not a disease that's going to kill us, but the bigger impact is on the market, on economics, on man's artificial economy, because people panic, they lose their jobs, companies close down, or they go bankrupt because of panic, or because of government intervention, And what this does is creates this ambient of hysteria, okay? People are in panic mode. And again, it's not the bug, it's going to be the panic mode that's going to cause it. We should be worried more about the panic and the hysteria than we should be worried about the bug itself. And so, yeah, I said, what's going to cause the collapse of man, of our species, what's going to cause the extinction of our species, is the collapse of the economy. And that could very well happen, or can be triggered by this bug. Now, it could trigger it, or it may be something else. Maybe this is just a dry run of what's going to happen sometime later, maybe in 1 year, maybe in 2 years, maybe in 5 or in 10. This is a good dry run, a good rehearsal for what may be coming our way. What happens when there's a panic? People go for food. Now that's interesting. I always said it's food, right? So people are worried about food right now, okay? They go out there and they buy food because they got to stock up, because they don't know what's coming, and the first thing people think about is food. Now, why would you think that's the case? Yeah, food is important. Food is very important, but everybody thinks of food. And I said, global collapse is an issue of food, is strictly an issue of food. Why? Because if the global economy collapses, no one produces or delivers food to the cities. Okay, that means that suddenly we're separated from that which is vital to us, that sustains us. You know, in the old days of hunter-gathering, people had their own spears. Our ancestors, you know, they had spears. It was good. They would kill an animal, and they had direct contact with their food, in a sense, right? It was dependent. It was dependent on how much skill they had, or whatever, how many animals they had at their disposal to kill, how easy they were, and so on. Today, we are being spoon-fed. You know, someone else produces our food, and we don't have a direct contact with food. Okay, so how do we get food? Well, we pay for it, and we pay for it with money. And what happens if money collapses? What if money is no more, which is my argument for man? Okay, what happens when money, no one believes in money anymore? And you say, well, that's impossible, Bill. It'll never happen. Well, the first thing I want to remind you is, at some point in time, we did not have any money. Now, some people believe we've always had money, some kind of money. No, we didn't. There was no such thing as trade or commerce in the Upper Paleolithic. And people who think that are simply ignorant people. Okay, what can I say? Neanderthals did not use money, even though you have people like John Hawkes who says, oh, they traded seashells for, I don't know, for prostitution. I don't know. These people are crazy. And they're anthropologists and paleontologists. They know nothing about the basics. No, a hunter-gatherer, especially a basal hunter-gatherer, he does not use money. He takes care of his own food. He hunts by himself or with a group of people from his own clan. But he doesn't go out there and do the other clan across the river, especially a different species, and say, hey, you guys, you want to trade? Here we have some seashells that we can give you for I don't know, bear skin. I mean, these people are crazy, totally crazy. And so, no, there was no trade. Trade began after subsistence agriculture began. And then shortly, well, I don't know if shortly, but if at least maybe 2,000 years later, that's when they invented trade. They invented bartering. You would give something in exchange for something else. If you trusted the other guy, maybe he was from your own village, then you trusted him more or less. But you're not going to go out there in the wild and exchange with, you know, a hyena exchanging deer bones with a lion. It just doesn't happen. But that's what these people have in their minds, because all they think about is trade, 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 and think that everything is trade. No, in the jungle you don't trade, because if you do, you're traded your life. That's what you trade. The other guy gets what you have, and you, it gets both of you. Okay. So yeah, when I look at extinction, I start with the Cretaceous, and I show that what died because of food. And here you have the Cretaceous terrestrial revolution. It shows you why the dinosaurs died. Was it because of an asteroid, like the idiots of paleontology say today, which is the official version? No, absolutely not. You can see here in this graph, which was collected, data collected from after 4 years, okay? And they assembled this graph. And what it shows is that the flowering plants displaced the gymnosperms, okay? The angiosperms replaced the gymnosperms. That's what happened. Over a long period of time, these are millions of years, right? And you can see the number of species expanded, and also the number of the quantity for each species, okay? And what they did, they crowded out the gymnosperms. And of course, if you're going to crowd out the gymnosperms, and that's what the dinosaurs ate, well, then for sure, you know, you're going to have trouble surviving. And so what happened, these animals were big. They were eating these things that the grasses were taking over the land and squeezing them out. And that's going to cause at some point the extinction of the animals that depended on the conifers for such a long time, which developed a symbiotic relationship with the conifers. That explains much better why the dinosaurs died. And if you go throughout the history of life on Earth, you'll find the same pattern I mean, don't take my word for it. Just do a little research and you'll find out what died were the old species. In the case of the dinosaurs, what died were the old species. Okay, the ones on the left, they were the dinosaurs, right? They died, and so did the plants that they ate. They were pushed aside by the newcomers. Who were the newcomers? Well, the mammals in the case of the animals, and the mammals in the case of the animals, and in the case of the plants were the flowering plants. They displaced the conifers. So it's very simple. We don't need an asteroid to do this. In fact, an asteroid cannot explain chronological selectivity, which is what you're staring at. The old species died, the new species survived. No asteroid can do that, okay, unless it's a very smart asteroid, you know. You'll find the same thing for the Permian. Permian, what died, you know, again, were the ferns, especially the seed ferns, and the animals that depended on the seed ferns. And what continued were the archosaurs. Those were the animals that took over the land. And then you have the long necks of the Jurassic. They took over the land when the Triassic animals lost their food sources, which again were like dicrodiums and plants of that nature, which were again all a different type of seed ferns. So it's when the plants die because their population pyramid overturns after millions of years, they lose genetic diversity, and little by little they whittle away while new plants take over the land. And then, yeah, the animals who forged a relationship over millions of years with these old plants, with these ancient plants, they go together with the plants that they ate. That's all there is. That's a mass extinction. So what does that have to do with man? What does it have to do with a bug? Well, in the case of man, we produce our own food. There's no difference really. It's just that we produce our own food. We manufacture and distribute our own food. We have this system that we created, but we depend on food as well. If we don't eat, like for 2 months, I think we're going to die. 8 billion of us. Some people say, how can you kill 8 billion people? Yeah, you can kill 8 billion people by starving them to death. You know, if God comes to earth, and instead of raining, you know, showering us with rains for 40 days and 40 nights, he does something different. He waves his magic wand, and now the earth, you know, looks like the surface of the moon. Okay, now you can't plant anything. Do you think you would die in that case? There, you know, nothing to plant, nothing to harvest, nothing to sell. As far as, I mean, we could still have computers, we could still have buildings, we can have highways, we can have cars and airplanes. If you don't have food, you die. You don't need all this other stuff. Those are nice to haves. But what you absolutely need to have is food and water. Okay, liquids, right? So this is the issue. The issue is that if the economy falls apart, and what I mean by that is money is no more, right? Money is no more, then what connects our entire economy disappears. The little chain that connects us, that disappears. And so now you can't go to the store and pay with money because the store won't accept money. The store can't buy new product because the manufacturer doesn't accept money. The producer doesn't sell to the manufacturer because he doesn't accept money. And the worker doesn't accept money, for his labor because he has no use for money. He can't go to the store and buy stuff with money. So if money disappears, we got a serious problem. You know, we can kill all of humanity simply by having God come over with his magic wand, twirling it, and making money disappear. And so, yeah, people say, well, that's impossible. Self-interest, and they'll come up with a whole bunch of theories or arguments for why money won't disappear. Okay, this is what people have in their minds. They've been so conditioned to money, you know, that they don't think it's possible for money to disappear. So let me just show a little thing here. You can see it. What the politicians are doing today, they're chopping up hope. What is money? It's trust, it's faith. That's all it is. And if the politicians go in there and chop up hope, what you're chopping up is, in God we trust. We don't trust it anymore. We become atheists in money. Is that possible? Well, you know, again, if it's just hope, if that's all that money is, it's just me trusting that I can do something with the money you give me, well, that's kind of wishy-washy, isn't it? I mean, here someone comes tomorrow and says, Bill, I'll give you money. Okay, here's money. Here's money from Argentina, okay? You see these bills? Let's put it over here. That's Argentinian money, okay? Here, 500 pesos, okay? And so I go to your shop and I pay you with 500 Argentine pesos. Would you accept them? You might say, well, I don't think I'll accept those. Vietnamese money instead? I mean, it's legal tender. It's backed by the government of Argentina. What more do you want? So money is not money is not money. There's money and there's money. Some things you don't accept. I go with a bit of gold and I say, hey, I want to buy your bike. But I don't have any cash on me. I'll give you some gold coins. You'll say, okay, I'll take those. Oh, you will? You'll take this metal? Sure, I'll take that. No problem. Okay, then I'm going to give you limestone instead. You know. Will you accept? I've got 2 rocks. I can get some more if you want, rocks. Would you accept it? I mean, money is money, right? So the guy says, no, I want the shiny one. I don't want that limestone or whatever. So money is not money is not money. Okay, so there is money. There's things you will accept, some stuff you won't accept. Okay, and the question is, what happens when the global economy falls apart? Will you accept money from your own country? Will an American accept dollars? Will a European accept euros? And again, the question is whether you can use it again, because if you don't have faith, you don't have trust, you lost your faith in money, and you don't accept it because you think you may have problems getting rid of that money, buying stuff with it, because money is being devalued daily, and companies are laying off people, and now the salaries are not worthy. In other words, they don't have real value. Will you accept money? The guy gives you money, and it turns out with money you can't even make it to the end of the month. You got to pay your rent, you got to pay maybe some bills, you got to buy food, you got to, if you have kids, you got to maintain your kids, maybe send them to college. And it turns out that the money they give you as a salaried worker, proletarian, right, is not good enough to get you to the end of the month. What happens? You get to that stage. Would you continue and insist, oh yeah, I'll continue working for 90% of what I need to get to the end of the month? Is that possible? Can you work for less than what you need to survive? I mean, as long as money is worth more and you can still make it to the end of the month, you might still drag on and say, okay, I think I can make it. But if you're at 90% of your expenses, would you go to work? And so this is the issue. Can money fall below a certain value that nobody gives a damn about money anymore? Or more and more people stop paying attention to money because money is no longer cutting it for them. And some people say, well, money cannot disappear. And here we have a big problem because people don't understand English. So let me teach you a little bit of English, okay? Let's teach you a little bit of English so that you know what we have here. And it's the difference between can and will. People don't seem to understand the difference, okay? Can has to do with possible. Will has to do with probable. Can I destroy money? Yeah, I can. I get a match, put a dollar bill, and I burn it. I can make money disappear. I can burn it. I can kill it. I can also press the button on the computer, wipe out a bank account. Suddenly I got rid of a whole bunch of money. Or I can go to Bill Gates' account, hack it, and say, Bill, all those, my brother, Bill Gates, all those billions of dollars you had in stocks, blick, one button, no more. So how much is Bill Gates worth the next morning when he finds out his entire stock has been wiped clean? Okay? So we can destroy money. Can. Possible. Okay? Just like there was a time when we never had money, a long time ago, thousands of years ago. In the same way, we can end up with not having money, or because money disappears, money collapses. We lose our faith in money or whatever. So can, yes, we can. We're talking about can here, about whether it's possible. And people say, no, but see, what people do for their own self-interest and blah, 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 blah. No, that's the second one. That's will. That's probable, whether they will or not. It's like, I got a dollar bill. Can I burn it? Yeah, I can burn it. Will I burn it? That's a separate issue. For self-interest, I may not burn it because I say, well, I can buy something with it. I can get something with $1. That's different than saying I cannot burn it. Okay? So people are confusing the self-interest, and they start introducing issues of will, of probability, versus issue of can and possibility. The first thing we have to accept is that it's possible to kill money. It's possible, physically possible. Okay, you can wipe out money through the internet. You can do a lot of things with money. Governments can tomorrow wipe out money. Sometimes you would think they're doing exactly that. I mean, if the Fed suddenly increases the money supply, doubles it or whatever, it can do that. If they can. Will they do that? That's a separate issue. But they can. And if they double the money supply, maybe money's not worth much anymore. Or they can do something even worse. They can give everybody $1 million. How's that for destroying money? They give everybody in the country $1 million. Everybody's a millionaire now. Now, wouldn't that be great? Well, I don't know. Maybe it's not. Because if everybody's got $1 million, maybe at least half of them, if not more, will not go to work anymore. They say, well, I don't need to work. I'm going to go on vacation. And so you're going to pay for services that you're not going to get because that person also went on vacation. Everybody goes on vacation. And suddenly nobody goes to work. And everybody's a millionaire. The great world, we're all millionaires. And here we all have $1 million and we can't do anything with it. So can we destroy money? Yeah, there are many ways to destroy money and make sure that money is no more. And I'm talking about can, possibility. People don't always understand that. They immediately run with their minds into probability, and they think they have an antidote to can, to possibility. So let's get that straight. We can destroy money. If we put all our heads together, huddle, we're going to say tomorrow money is no more. We can do that if we want. Will we do it? That's a separate issue. And people raise issues of probability, of self-interest, of that nature, right? But here, that's not the argument. That's not the argument I'm raising. I'm not saying that it's an issue of whether we will do it purposely, like, deliberately. Were we going to go in there and say we're going to destroy money, the Fed is going to double the money or give everybody $1 million? No, that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying there are certain situations where money simply, or context, right, where money has no value. Your ship sinks, okay? And so the entrepreneur, the money-conscious person, instead of going to the kitchen, grabbing what he might need on the island, no, he grabs the treasure chest and swims, with this treasure chest all the way to shore. Well, he's a millionaire on the island, but he's got nothing to eat. What is his money worth there? So context, I think, is to some degree quite important, You got to look at context. Are there situations where the circumstances determine that money is no more, whether you like it or not? It's not a question of whether you want money to disappear. It's an issue of it's imposed upon you because you have no choice. And just imagine if this virus continues, the coronavirus, right? And so the government now imposes more draconian measures, and private companies also. And I look at Spain, look at Italy, if you've heard a little bit about that. You go there now, the streets are policed. They won't allow you outside your street unless you have a reason to be on the streets. Like, you're going to buy groceries, okay, you might be allowed to go through. if you don't bribe the policeman. You have to bribe them maybe to get through. Maybe you're going to work because you got to go to work, and not everybody can work from home. Maybe you're going to the hospital. So there are a few situations under which you can leave your city, but everybody's under lockdown. You know, a lot of towns, and I guess the whole country in Spain is under lockdown, in Italy probably too. So the question is, this is imposed upon you. And if it's imposed like that by the force of arms in a democratic country, right, we might have a little bit of a problem, because that might affect the flow of goods, the free flow even of ideas, if you come to think of it, you know. You got to look at that possibility. And yeah, it could come to a point where a lot of people lose their jobs because companies shut down because nobody's buying or buying very little. So companies shut down, they lay off people. And because they lay off people, there's less income out there, less disposable income to act as a good democratic, freedom-loving consumer. Okay, and so you don't buy, another company shuts down, kicks off workers, and then the cycle continues. And here's the picture. It's called the chain reaction. Okay, this is the corona chain reaction. You know, corona strikes people. That's the starting point. So people react now. First, government says, "Oh, geez, we got to do something about this." So they put a lot of news. And the news is sensationalist. Headlines, oh, 2 people died in our country. Oh my God, let's shut down the country. You know, and so panic spreads. And then what happens, corporations lose revenue, especially, for example, tourism, right? And so in other words, what we're talking about is restaurants, what else? Shops, hotels, you know, airlines, so on. And so they lose revenue. Now they kick off work. They kick workers out, or they say, hey, why don't you take a leave of absence without pay? So now this guy has less money, and so he's got less money to spend, which means now the consumers stop buying. And then the cycle starts again. It goes back to the corporation losing more revenue, more workers lose their jobs, and fewer consumers buy things. So it's a chain reaction that is exponential, and it's self-feeding. It's a self-feeding mechanism. And so, yeah, you can have this situation where in a very short time, because of this exponential process, you just have one thing right after another, and the whole thing just collapses. And it doesn't even give you time to breathe. It doesn't give you time to take that deep breath to think about what's happening. So could it happen? Well, I think it could. Now, is it going to happen? Well, that's a separate issue. We got to wait and see what happens. But right now, it doesn't look very good. And again, if this is not what's going to cause the collapse of man, it does give us a dry run of what may happen in the future when we have a similar situation, not triggered necessarily by a bug. Could be triggered by simply the loss of jobs, too many people unemployed, and workers go out into the streets, they protest because they don't have a job, they don't have an income. The government might give some welfare out or some unemployment benefits, and maybe even some health insurance, and that's not enough, and the person barely makes it to the end of the month. How do they do that? Well, they have to take away from the person who works, and that person now gets less money because, you know, he's got to support all these people who don't work. And at some point, there is a collapse of the economy because you can't keep having more and more unemployed people or making just barely enough to live. A lot of people clinging to the system through welfare, through unemployment, through retirement. Retirees are unemployed people, okay, housewives, etc., students. And so you have this mass of workers who are making less and less and less, and more people hanging on to them. And at some point, the system collapses. And at that point, what do I mean by that? I mean money is no more. And so you don't need a bug to produce that. The bug, if anything, just awakened a few people out there that it could happen. I have friends out there that are now thinking about what I said all these years. They say, well, maybe you were not completely wrong. They're still not, they still have faith in the system. But yeah, it just gives you an idea that if we let this go on, it might produce, the final straw that breaks the camel's back. Okay, I'm going to continue on Wednesday probably with electromagnetic wave. I'll analyze what I was supposed to analyze today, and so I'm going to leave that till Wednesday. So we'll see you then. And hopefully you don't catch the coronavirus, and hopefully they don't stop in your town. They don't stop you from buying groceries. We'll see you then. Bye-bye.